Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Business of Fun podcast. I'm your host, Dave Wakeman. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection. Any listing, any sector, anywhere, Booking Protect has you covered with the world's most comprehensive refund protection product. To find out how you and your organization can partner with Booking Protect to deliver a world-class customer service experience, more customization in your customer's purchase path, and how you and your organization can create a brand new stream of revenue, visit them at www.bookingprotect.com. Once again, that's www.bookingprotect.com. Come see me and Booking Protect CEO Simon Mabb at the Ticketing Professionals Conference in Sydney, Australia on the 14th and 15th of November. Simon and I will be there. I'm going to be giving the opening keynote address on change and innovation in tickets and in the world around us. And Simon's going to be talking about customer service. We're going to be doing a couple of really cool things to celebrate our trip to Australia. So to find out how you can hook up with me and Simon, send me an email at dave@davewakeman.com. And make sure you get your tickets immediately by visiting the conference's website at www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. That email address again is www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. Launching today is a brand new newsletter coming from me called Talking Tickets each Friday, modeled on two people that do something that I think is really great. Tony Knopp, if you don't follow him on Twitter, he's at Tony Knopp, does three things he's learned over the course of the week and gives you a little bit of insight into why those things are important. He talks about the world of sports and tickets and tech. And also, a guy called Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Work Week, does a thing called 5 Bullet Friday. So my new newsletter is called Talking Tickets. 5 stories that you should have probably maybe been paying attention to this week or that came up this week and why they're important to you. Real short, to the point, probably less than 300 or 400 words. You can get that newsletter by emailing me for now until I get the landing page situation worked out. But that email is dave@davewakeman.com and put ticket or Talking Tickets in the subject line. Again, that's dave@davewakeman.com. Put Talking Tickets in the subject line. Finally, did I tell you that besides giving the keynote address in Sydney, Australia at the Ticketing Professionals Conference, I'm going to be doing a one-day workshop called Fans for Life, Creating and Keeping the Modern Fan on Monday, the 18th of November in Sydney, Australia. The 18th of November in Melbourne, Australia. Melbourne, the home of sports. In this workshop, we are going to cover a lot of ground, and this is going to be one of my most intense and great events that I've ever put on. The first one I'm ever doing in Australia. But it's going to help you answer the question that every organization in the world is asking themselves right now, which is how can we grow our fan base and our audience? In this workshop, we're going to cover things like the fan marketing funnel. We are going to talk about the fan marketing model. We are going to talk about how to understand fan life cycles. Packages, personalization, revenue, understanding lifetime fan value, customer journey, renewing tickets, creating a fan-first commitment, a fan bill of rights, customer service, technology, building relationships, accountability, and a whole lot more. You can find that event by visiting Eventbrite and typing in my name or Fans for Life. And creating, keeping the modern fan. Again, that's going to be on the 18th of November in Melbourne, Australia. I hope to see you there. My guest today is a guy by the name of Anthony Esposito. He is the Vice President of Ticket Operations with the Atlanta Braves, my childhood team. We talked about a lot of stuff. I wanted to have Anthony on because Anthony and I are buddies from NTICS. Anthony's heavily involved in NTICS, so we cover NTICS, right? We talk about baseball. We talk about, Anthony's career path and kind of how he's like progressed from starting out with the Charlotte Bobcats and then the Hornets, and moved on to the Braves. We talk about some of the really cool things that the Braves have done with moving into SunTrust Park. We talk about, they're adopting a fully mobile venue. They offer a great experience. We talk about customer service. We talk about the business intelligence department at the Braves have. We talk about training. One of the cool things is they talk about three basics of service that the Braves train all of their service people on, and it's great. We talk about VR, marketing, promotions, the history of the Braves, a whole lot of stuff. I don't think the only thing we don't really talk about is that how John Smoltz was my favorite player, and I totally should have bought a John Smoltz t-shirt. But this is a really great conversation. We cover a lot of stuff. People have been asking me to do more with sports teams, so I wanted to get Anthony on because if I'm going to do a lot more with some of the teams, if he seemed like a great place to start, I would point you towards, before I forget, look at GAPTA, GAPTA. That is the Georgia Association of Ticketing Professionals that will be having their every other year conference on November 5th at SunTrust Park, and it's going to be a great opportunity. Unfortunately, I won't be there because I will be in Australia, but I think it's totally something you should be checking out. And like Anthony mentions on the podcast, make sure you're checking out NTIX in New York in January of 2020. But without any more, because this has been a very long intro, here's my conversation with Anthony Esposito from the Atlanta Braves on the Business of Fun podcast. I want to welcome Anthony Esposito from the Atlanta Braves to the Business of Fun podcast. What's happening, man?
Not much, Dave. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Recently I was asking people what they wanted more of, and they were like, well, can you get some more sports people? And I was like, I can do this. So you're the first of my many new sports people that are going to be coming on the podcast now. So
perfect.
Yeah,
well, thanks for having me.
This will be great because, as you know, the Braves are my childhood team, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about here. But for people who don't know you, maybe the first time, you have I don't want to say long because I don't want people talking about me being around a long time. But you have like a really great career, and you've been with the Braves for a long time, and you've done some really great stuff. You're heavily involved in NTIX. You're heavily involved in the regional association. You're heavily involved in the world of tickets. Probably, I guess, much like I am. Can you give people a little bit of about your background and an introduction in case maybe they've never heard of you or heard from you before?
Yeah, so I am. So my current role, I serve as the Vice President of Ticket Operations for the Atlanta Braves. For those that aren't familiar with Major League Baseball, we're a Major League Baseball team located in the Atlanta, Georgia area, just north of town. There's 30 Major League Baseball teams spread throughout the United States, and we're fortunate to be one of them. So I often look at my position as I'm one of 30 people in the United States that does my job, which is pretty neat. But I've been with the Braves, this is my 14th season. Started in 2006, so started right before the 2006 season. So us in the sports world like to we don't count our years, we count our seasons because it just sounds better. It's always one longer than it actually is. So 14 seasons with the Braves and a 23rd season in ticketing. So I started in 1997 as an intern, and junior in college was an intern with the Charlotte Knights AAA baseball team in Charlotte, North Carolina. Did 2 seasons there, was an intern for 97, graduated in 98, got hired full-time. Actually ran the retail store there for the summer of 98, and then helped out with ticketing towards the end of the year. And then from there I went to Ticketmaster, based out of Charlotte, their Charlotte, North Carolina regional office for almost 5 years through 2003, middle of 2003. Got an opportunity, middle of 2003, to work in the NBA with a startup franchise in Charlotte. The Charlotte Hornets had left to go to New Orleans. They were the New Orleans Hornets, so the Charlotte Bobcats became a franchise that was awarded to the city. So I worked for them from about a year and a half before they played their first game. We started during the 04-05 season. So I worked for them for almost 3 years. I left right before the end of the 2006 season to come down here to Atlanta. And been down there ever since. So born and raised in upstate New York. So I did, all the way through sophomore in college up in upstate New York, about an hour south of Albany, New York. And then I've been in the South basically since 1996. I moved down my junior year of college.
Yeah, you only pick up a few words that have bled in and given you a little bit of a Southern accent.
No, it hasn't. I guess I did have a little bit of a New York accent when I first moved down. I didn't have that real thick, New York City accent or Brooklyn accent, but But yeah, I've definitely picked up some words along the way. And, I've got 4 kids now, and they're all born in Georgia, so it'll be interesting. They definitely have some twang in some of their words that they say, so it's fun to hear that.
Well, at some of these conferences, if we have an extra whiskey or two, there'll be a lot of twang that comes out of mine.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's right.
So let me ask you. You've been around for a few years, and one of the things that I always dig, right, and one of the things I can't encourage people enough to do is to get involved in industry things. And you are heavily involved, right? And
Yes.
and I try to tell people that like some of the greatest people I know in tickets are the people who are heavily involved in the industry, and they also end up it benefits you professionally and socially and everything. How'd you get so heavily involved in Intics?
So I started with Intics. The guy I worked for at the Charlotte Bobcats, his name was Jamie Hall. I had worked for him in 1997 as an intern with Charlotte Knights in 1998 as well. We became good friends. He was actually a groomsman at my wedding in 2003. So he hired me in 2006, 2006 with the Bobcats. I'm sorry, 2003 with the Bobcats. And so 2005 he kind of got me hooked up with Intics coming to the conference. He had gone for years, and he now works for Ticketmaster. Coincidentally based in Atlanta, so we get to see each other a lot, which is good. But he got me involved with Intics. My first conference was 2005 out in Los Angeles, and ever since that first conference, just meeting like-minded people was kind of a big thing, because when you work on our side of ticketing, which is more on the operations side, kind of the back end. You're not pounding the phones, making phone calls, trying to sell seasons. You're actually trying to make sure that those people that buy, pay for their tickets and receive their tickets and can scan into the game when they come with their tickets. So just to be somewhere where there's so many like-minded people, your conversations at lunch, your conversations at dinner, and then after hours, we're all kind of about the same stuff. We spoke the same language. So I got started in 2005 and just kind of took it from there. And I've really enjoyed, the biggest thing about Intics is, which everybody says, which you just referenced a little bit too, is the networking. Just the people you meet, from all walks of life, from all, we're not just all sports people. There's arts, there's theaters, there's, racetracks, everything in between. Anything that has a ticket for admission, you'll meet somebody at these conferences.
Yeah, it's an interesting group of people, right? And I know that there was Maureen, who's the CEO, and Andrew Thomas, who's on the board. They were very, very, very much heavily recruiting me to be involved, and I'm really excited that I'm a part of the community now, because I've always sat in the area, like somewhere between the business people and the operations people, somewhere in the middle, where you got going, I just got to get people in the door. And once I can get people in the door, I know I can monetize them. And so it's been really great to be able to go to both places and kind of understand both sides of the operation, because I think sometimes, and this is not exclusive to tickets, this is exclusive to every business, is like the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand and you miss things. And so to me, it's been really valuable. And I've met some really great people like you and, Derek Palmer and Andrew and Maureen, and it's a really great thing. And I think, I wanted to bring that up because I think it's awesome. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're also involved in the planning the conference or in New York next year. Is that or?
Yeah. So my current position with Intics. So I've been a member since 2005. Kind of just stayed in the background for the first 3 years. Towards the end of the early 2000s, I started getting involved in different committees. So I was on the conference planning committee for a few conferences. I was on an awards committee. So just kind of got my feet wet a little bit, just getting more involved in the organization. And then 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to get nominated to be a member of the board, got elected. And then last year, I was nominated and elected to go through the chairman cycle. So currently, as of this year, I'm the chair-elect, kind of the chairman in waiting. And then next year, starting with the New York conference, at the end of the last day of the New York conference at our breakfast, it'll officially be turned over from Derek Palmer with QQ over to me. So I'll be the chairman for 2020, starting at the end of the New York conference, and then going through 2021, and then I'll go into the past chair cycle as well. So Derek will be my past chair next year. I'll be able to rely on him to answer any questions and do all the dirty work for me.
I was going to say, so what you're saying is that I have to continue to be nice to you and Derek for a couple more years at least.
Yes, exactly. A couple more years.
A couple more years before we're done with each other. Now, let's talk about some baseball here,
Okay.
and then at the end, I want you to tell everybody about the conference that you're hosting
Yeah.
in Atlanta in November. But let's talk about baseball, because I just had a chance to come to a game a couple weeks back now at your new stadium, and it was great. I had like a really, really nice time. It's like a beautiful technology-centered ballpark. It was great. And I know it's the second year, but technology was a big part of what you've done and how you make the process of going to a game and engaging with the team at the ballpark was a big part of everything. You've done some really great things with mobile ticketing. Can you explain to us, a little bit about how you've done that and how, like, some of the successes and the opportunities and the challenges that you have dealt with so far?
Yeah, so we opened SunTrust Park. Actually, we made our decision to move, I believe, in 2013, end of 2013. So, we had 2.5-3 years of kind of building this place out. One of our biggest objectives was to be a leader in the mobile ticketing space. Once we got to the point of moving in here. Rewind a couple years ago, prior to SunTrust Park, we were still in the printed ticket and the printed PDF space, which, if anybody has gone to an event and you have the ability to print a ticket from your home computer, you would be amazed at how many times the same exact copy of the same exact ticket shows up at the game, and it's been sold 40 times, 30 times on Craigslist, 10 times on the corner, and you have 39 upset people, and the one person that got here first, got it. So, we had gone through all the struggles that everybody else does with printed tickets, and we made the decision we wanted to get into the mobile space. So fast forward to SunTrust Park, we took 80 acres of land where our site sits right now. We built the ballpark on, I believe 15 or 16 acres, and then the rest of it was turned into a development. Bars, restaurants, hotel, retail space. There's a office building. Comcast has an office building. So as part of our relationship with Comcast, they help power all of the Wi-Fi around here. So we have the largest, most powerful, fastest Wi-Fi connection, which is really a driver towards mobile ticketing, because the last thing you want is to push mobile and then your people get to the gate and they can't get a signal on their phone to pull up their mobile ticket.
Yeah, let me jump in on that too.
Yeah.
When you say about the powers the Wi-Fi, it was the first ballpark I've been to where I really could get a Wi-Fi connection. So it really, you're not blowing smoke when you say that.
No, it's one of the things we reference a lot when we were moving into the ballpark was, we won the 1995 World Series, and one of our highlights is the final out. It's a fly ball to left center field, and Marquise Grissom catches it, and everybody goes crazy. So our reference was always, we could have 41,000 people in the ballpark streaming that highlight at the same time and have no interruptions. So it's kind of how powerful our Wi-Fi is. So we made the decision to kind of cut the cord, for lack of a better term, on printed PDFs. And a lot of printed tickets for the most part going into SunTrust Park. So fast forward a few seasons, and happy to report that we now see, we'll have over 2.6 million people come through the gates when it's all said and done before the end of the regular season, not counting playoffs this year. 2.6 million, 70% of those people, a little over 70%, will enter via a mobile device, which is huge. From where we've come from. Our first season in SunTrust Park, we got about half, we had about 50% of the people come in on mobile. So we've been able to grow that. We're hoping to eventually, we'll never get to 100%, perfect world, because there'll always be printed tickets out there. There'll always be tickets purchased at a window. They get printed. There'll always be player tickets that need to be printed. But we're hoping to, I think our end goal would be somewhere in the 90% range for mobile entry.
And, I know there's still a reluctance, and then there's people old school, kind of like me, who still really like having a printed ticket as a souvenir, right?
Yes.
But what's driving so much of the adaptation? Because 70% is fantastic, and if you can get to 90%, and after I've used your system and understand how it can work in a really great, well laid out system, how are you encouraging that, and how are you working to get towards that 90%?
So fortunately with our relationship with Major League Baseball, they have what's called the MLB Ballpark app. So all 30 teams have access to use this app. It's the place that we push people to go to. In my world, for tickets to download to have your game tickets and your parking tickets, mobile barcodes within the app, but also in the game, you can see what restaurants are out in the Battery area. There's games within the baseball game that you can play. So the mound ball, the little game where in between each inning when the out's made, the umpire throws a fresh baseball towards the mound, and you can kind of play a game whether the ball's going to end up on the mound or if it's going to roll off the mound. It's like little things like that during a game. You can vote for songs to be played during certain innings through the app. So we push people into the app in general. So outside of just ticketing, so we don't want it to be, if it was just exclusively just for ticketing, I don't think we'd have as much adoption as we do. But since there's a lot of other things you can do within the app, we've seen a lot of success with getting people to use mobile. Plus, it's really, we've put additional fees on other things. So if you want to choose roll call, you've got to pay an extra fee. If you want to have your tickets printed, you've got to pay an extra fee. So we're really doing as much as we can to encourage you to use the mobile option.
Using incentives to get the behavior you want.
Yes.
Let me ask you about the app, though, because you said you're creating all these engagement opportunities within the app during the game. I think it was Mark Cuban said that he wanted to create an atmosphere where people were looking at the field and up all the time, and said you've taken the opposite approach. What led you down that path? Like, how did you and the Braves figure out that was the way to engage your fans and taking people's eyes off the field?
Yeah, so fortunately, Mr. Cuban's got a very fast. He's got a very fast, back and forth game in the NBA. Baseball is just it's a very social game. It's a very long, kind of sometimes drawn out game where, I forget the exact number, but it's single digit minutes, the amount of time that a ball is actually in play during a game of baseball. So there's a lot of downtime. Pitcher throws a ball, then, you can see it from our games. A 30-second clock starts, and they're waiting, in between pitches, and there's pitching changes in between innings. So there's a lot of downtime. So it's more of a, we're much more social. You can guarantee a 2.5, 3 hour experience every time you come to a game. Whereas in basketball or in football or hockey, the action's right there in front of you. It's happening. It's nonstop. There's a clock. They play by a clock. We don't play by a clock. Our games could go 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours. So we've really just kind of embraced the fact that people need something else to kind of keep themselves occupied. And things within the app. We have one of the components that's really neat is a kind of a virtual reality. So you can go within the app and hold your phone up to, like, Freddie Freeman's one of our big players. You can hold your phone up to the back of his jersey and kind of focus in on a picture, and stats about him would pop up. Would recognize that you're looking at number 5, Freddie Freeman. And there's different points around the ballpark where you can go and hold your phone up as well and just kind of see some information about the ballpark. So.
Yeah, and I think that some of that stuff, like especially when you use the stats or you use the stories about the game, I'm on record all the time about that's where baseball really flourishes, is sort of the pace, the story, some of the history. It's I describe it as a novel, and a lot of the other sports are like a short story, and each game of the season's a chapter in a book that's got 162, maybe more chapters in it, and it is great. Knowing that you've done all this great stuff with the app, how are you and the Braves approaching marketing baseball? Because I know that's like a big, heavy topic right now, and overcoming the challenge of the game's a little slower or people's attention spans or whatever. And I ask that question because I want to see baseball do well because I love baseball, and so I'm curious how you're approaching it, especially with a new ballpark and knowing that sometimes there's a tendency for things to drop off after a ballpark opens, but hopefully not.
Yeah, so we just put a winning team on the field, and that's it. We just open the doors and expect you to come in, and that's it. But no, joking. We're fortunate that we're in a position right now where we do have a very good team on the field. So the product is good. That's obviously going to drive, especially in Atlanta. Atlanta's a very bandwagon sports town. If you're doing great, they'll come out and support you. If you're not doing so great, then they'll find something else to do. So right now we're one of the.
Let's call them fickle.
Fickle. There you go. Fickle fans.
Keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So we're one of the cool things to do. But once you're here, once you're on our campus, as we like to refer to it as, with the battery and the ballpark, we want to entertain you. We want this to be an experience. Obviously there's a baseball game that's the center of attention, but we want you to come early. We've got bars and restaurants, retail for you to go to. We've got we've got a drum line. We've got entertainment. We've got Tomahawk team. We've got a really good mascot with Blooper. So we want to really entertain you when you get here. Come in the game. We've got a variety of food options. It's not just your hot dog and hamburger. We've got a extensive kids area with a zip line, a rock climbing wall. We've got carnival games. We've got kids specific retail. So we really want to try to capture both the young and the older. We have the baseball there for the people that are traditionalists that just want to sit and watch a game. But we've got other things for you to do. You can customize your own jersey. We've got a Braves, basically a Hall of Fame set up behind home plate where you kind of see the history of the organization from Boston to Milwaukee to Atlanta, and kind of take a trip down memory lane. And then once the game starts, the game is happening on the field in between innings. We've got entertainment going. We've got cap shuffles. We've got one of the more popular things that took off on social media last year was called Beat the Freeze. So it's a guy dressed in a spandex costume that starts in the left field corner. He has a contestant that he's racing against. The contestant gets probably a 30-yard start maybe before the freeze starts, and then they race to the other foul pole. Most times he wins, but that's our in-game entertainment's pretty strong. So we try to keep the attention going. We have a lot of upbeat music we're playing, and try to keep people's attention. Then after the game, we hope that you spill out into the battery area. We'll have our drum line there again. We'll have some kind of a post-game party to kind of mirror the pre-game party that we had before you came in through the gates. So we're not tone deaf to the fact that it is a long game. There are short attention spans with the younger generation, and we do try to cover every base.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I know that you talked about the app, and we joked about winning solves everything, because I know that's like probably a joke that we make fairly regularly, because it doesn't necessarily cure anything.
No.
How are you developing the relationship so that, when the team, needs to maybe goes through a rebuilding process or has a slump in performance, that people aren't disconnected from the Braves? And I get it, right? Like growing up in Georgia, I know how fickle Georgia sports fans are.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember when I was a kid, and this is just an example for people who maybe think, oh, that's BS. No, it's the Braves were won, what was it, how many in a row?
14 straight pennants and 5 World Series appearances.
Yeah. It was 5 or 6 where, years in, and people were still going like this. They're like going, this ain't going to last. So that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah, we still get some of that. I mean, there's 4 rounds to the playoffs, technically. There's the first wild card game, which is a one game matchup, and then the loser goes home. So after that, there's 3 main rounds. And, first one's called the National League Division Series, and we have not made it. We've made it to the National League Division Series. We have not made it out since, I believe, it's 2001. So I think it's almost 18 years at this point where we have not made it out of that kind of true first round of the playoffs. So it's kind of a big deal. People recognize that. But on the flip side, we didn't sign a bunch of high-priced free agents to come in here. We've kind of built these guys, homegrown players, and our fans have really been able to watch them come up through the minor leagues, and now they're playing in the major leagues, and they're able to see their careers from the beginning. We've brought in a few free agents, when we've needed to fill some pieces. So I think, the fans definitely appreciate the product we're putting on the field. But from a retention side, we've created, just like a lot of other sports teams in the last couple of years, a business intelligence group. So, they're kind of tasked with doing a lot of, you hear a lot about analysis and, in-depth research on the baseball side and what they're doing, look at statistical analysis and trying to determine, trends with players. We're doing the same exact thing on the business side. So the Moneyball book came out in 2001. It was all about the Oakland A's and Billy Beane and their approach and, how they value players. We've adopted the same exact thing on the business side. So, we have a value on all of our season ticket holders. We kind of know what if we have a high likelihood to renew them the next year, low likelihood, what we can do to, encourage them to renew. And at the same time, we have, kind of in parallel to that, we also have managed our broker agreements So our secondary market. So we don't let just anybody come in here and buy a ticket that's going to just turn around and resell it on the secondary market. We manage those relationships really closely. We have a small handful of brokers that we work with, and that's one way to retain them. So your season ticket base is not, filled with people that are going to, once you go bad, they're just going to drop the tickets.
Right.
Our season base is filled pretty strongly with people that are going to stay true to our brand. If this thing goes sideways, a couple years down the road, we're not as successful as we are now.
Well, I think the reality is that any team is not going to be at the tippy-tip top forever, and they're not going to be in. Hopefully, there are teams that do struggle for a long time, but most of the time you're building, or it's like a wave, and so the idea of keeping a score, having a Moneyball approach to the business, so you kind of understand the life cycle of the fan is really important, because I have been trying to emphasize as much as possible that fans aren't stagnant, right? They're not static in position, and that they have a ebb and flow, just like your team does, just like a player does, just like everything else. So when you're looking at these scores, and if any of this stuff is like too proprietary or too tough to cut to the bone, you let me know. When you're looking at the score of people, how much of a factor is pricing, and how much of it is performance? And how does the weighting of these things play out?
I think pricing itself, it's going to work itself out. People are going to be sitting in the price of seats that they're comfortable with, or that their company can afford. So you just want to make sure that they have a good experience in those seats. They like the people around them. One thing that we do, which I'm sure some other venues do, but I feel like it's pretty unique to us in our Southern hospitality, is our ushers that are in each section prior to the season. We'll send each season ticket holder in those sections almost like a baseball card of that usher. Like, here's your usher. Here's Dave, Wakeman. He's going to be your usher for the season. He's born and raised here. His favorite Braves player is here. His favorite Braves moment is this. So you can kind of get to know your usher a little bit. Makes you feel a little bit more comfortable in the section you're sitting in. And then, we have a strong CRM. We use Salesforce, so, we get as much information as we can about what you like, what your kids' names are, when their birthdays are. We try to personalize as much as we can. We have a client services department that has relationships with all of our season ticket holders. So I believe there's 6 representatives up there, and they divide the season ticket holders up equally. So each one of them has a personal relationship. Making phone calls, sending emails, inviting them out for a kind of shake your hand, meet and greet during the game, or going to visit them in the seats. We have season ticket holder specific events that we hold during the season, where they'll be invited to, whether it's meet former players, some of our alumni, or meet current players, or have an opportunity to hear our GM or our CEO speak on the business or baseball side of things. So we make a conscious effort to constantly be reaching out to our core base, which is our season ticket holders, and making them feel welcomed.
Well, it kind of lines up, too, when you talk about your strong CRM and you kind of make things actionable. It reminds me of the story you told at Intix this year about creating magic moments. And I believe it was somebody was tweeting at you, and they were asking for a beer vendor. And then you were able to move the person right away.
Yeah,
I'll let you tell the story, though.
Yeah, it was a guy up in the upper level, and he sent a tweet out just complaining that there was no beer vendors around him. And then, we have a team during the game that sits in the office in a conference room that monitors all of our social media. So all the feedback we're getting, both positive and negative. But obviously we appreciate the positives, which don't come through very often on social media in general. But looking out for the negatives, like my seat is broken, or there's a terrible smell in this area. Maybe or there's a leak in this area. So we have them constantly looking. So last year somebody had tweeted about there's no beer vendors in their area walking up and down the aisle. So we got there. We saw, I think they sent a picture, and we kind of knew where they were sitting, so we went and found them and brought them a beer. So just little things like that can make you realize that there is actually a human being behind this, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, whatever social media outlet I'm reaching out through. There are actually human beings, with feelings and emotions sitting back there that can help you out.
Yeah, there was and this human being thing, this human connection thing, is something that, again, to beat a dead horse is something I talk about all the time. But it's really incredible, and the baseball card thing is awesome, because I wrote down the names of the people and I lost them on my travels home. But the three people that were around the section I was in when I was at the game, they were fantastic. And I was like, I'm going to send Anthony a note and tell him how great they were.
Yeah.
And it does parlay itself into like a great experience when you go to the ballpark, because it could be Southern hospitality, but people make you feel welcomed. And I think that is a really key factor to getting people to come back, because if you don't feel like people want you there, then why am I coming back? It's like a really, really awesome thing. One thing, though, that I am curious about is you have a fairly substantial team of people around. Moving into the new ballpark, did that increase, or it's been pretty steady over the last couple of years?
So from what you see on the outside coming to a game, that number's stayed pretty much the same. We have about, on any given game, on a high game, we'll have 1,000, 1,500 staffers between parking attendants, ushers, ticket takers, concession workers, and then post game, the crew that comes through and cleans up the ballpark, security that's there, 24/7. For big games, we'll have, it kind of varies between the game, but 1,000, 1,500 people working. And then on the front office side, behind the scenes, we've grown a huge amount. I don't know the exact number when I started in 2006. I know it was less than 150 people full time in the front office, that between marketing and sales and accounting and baseball ops and engineering, grounds group. But now we're well over 300, probably well over 350, closing in on 400 full-time people. And that includes our scouts that are not necessarily here, that are spread throughout the country, and our minor leagues as well. But we are a big operation. But we need those people. We need every last one of them to help make this thing go on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, to do some of this like Moneyball stuff it takes a lot of people, but it does sound really, really great. And I can say for sure that how it translates to somebody coming to the game, it translates very nicely.
I wanted to say on that, you mentioned having Southern hospitality, having a good experience. One of the things that we really drive home and all of our game day staff, we do a bunch of trainings every preseason. Even if you've been here for 25 years and worked as an usher or a ticket taker, you go through the same kind of just kind of a refresher training. But we really emphasize what's called the 3 bases of service. So it's a warm welcome. So welcome to Suntrust Park. So warm welcome, anticipate needs. So how can I help you? Or what are you looking for today? Or what area do you want to sit in our case, if you're pushing tickets at the window. And then a fond farewell. So have a great day, enjoy the game, safe driving home. We'll have people at the gates on the way out every single night, wishing everybody a fond farewell, have a safe trip home, or anything that you need help with before you leave, that type of thing. And then engaging the children as well. So in our case, at a ticket window, a family comes up and there's a little guy or girl sitting there that's barely peeking above the window. You want to take a second and just say hello, ask them who their favorite player is, and kind of get them engaged, get them excited about the game. But we do focus on making sure our 3 bases of service are covered in all of our interactions with guests when they come here.
That's funny, too, that you mentioned those 3 basics of service, because I could definitely point out that the people that I engage with, they definitely did that. And I was thinking about it. I've been to probably more baseball games this year than I've been to in a while. And I can specifically remember where one ballpark I went to early in the season, and where I had the exact opposite experience, because I was looking for something, and I have my son in tow, so I'm looking for something that would be cool for him, and they just really didn't want to be bothered by me. And that's unfortunate.
It is.
But I think it's great, and if anybody gets a chance to come to the ballpark to check it out, I think they should, because it was great. But I want to ask you before I go, because I know we both have a heart out here, about the conference that's coming up in November. The regional intakes.
Yeah, so we have what's called GAPTA, GAPTA. It's the Georgia Professional Georgia, not to be confused with the Georgia Professional Teachers Association. It's the Georgia Professional Ticketing Association. So we've actually had.
I let you screw it up saying it, not me.
I did. No, I was president. I was president of GAPTA for a couple of years. And I always wonder, I'm like, why can't we get this specific website that's like GAPTA.org? Why can't we get it? I'm like, well, that's the Georgia PTA. It's the Georgia Parent Teacher Association. So yeah, it's probably the first time in a while I've said that. But yeah, so the Georgia Professional Ticketing Association. We're having our conference November 5th. It's happening here at SunTrust Park. It's It's kind of a spin-off. It's a mini Intix is what we like to call it. There's a lot of people that either can't afford the time or just can't afford the cost to go to the annual Intix conference. So we have a regional group, about 120 people strong, from the Georgia, Atlanta area, state of Georgia, and we have some folks that come in from Birmingham, Alabama. So we have a good group of people. We meet every other month for a lunch and learn, and then every other year in November we do a one-day conference. So we're having our one-day conference November 5th. If anybody wants information on it or wants to attend, it's the email is GAPTA, GAPTA 0708 at gmail.com. I guess you can tell what year they put the email together, 0708. So it's GAPTA 0708 at gmail.com. There's some other folks that run the association now, but yeah, we're gonna have a one-day conference talking about a lot of the topics that we'll be discussing at Intix, from mobile ticketing to premium seating, but it's also a great chance to kind of network with people if you're able to make it to the Atlanta area on that day.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I link to everything in the show notes. And I know that we have been working on trying to find you some really great speakers
Yes.
to come in from around the world. So I think there's going to be some surprises in store for people. So it'll be very much worth their time and their attention.
Definitely.
Now, Anthony, where would I point people to if they want to find out more about you and keep up with you on the internet?
So I am on Twitter. It's Espo, ESPO underscore Zito, SITO. Esposito is my last name, but it's got a little underscore in between. I don't have a lot of tweets. I don't have a lot of followers. I've lost my account. So I went through a little social media, I don't know what you call it, earlier in the year, and I just kind of deactivated my account for a couple days longer than Twitter allows me. So I lost, I had an account for years and years, but anyways,
a social media cleanse.
Yeah, social media cleanse, but that's my problem, not anybody else's. So, but
It's a point. The loss of followers, we know that it's a point of contention.
Yeah, and all my tweets and everything I had tweeted in years. Not that I had tweeted much, but enough to. But anyway, so I'm on there, and then LinkedIn you can find me as well. Just Anthony Esposito with the Atlanta Braves. I'll pop right up on there. So connect with me and come see a Braves game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for doing this for me.
All right, thanks, Dave.
What did you think about my conversation with Anthony Esposito from the Atlanta Braves? Let me know by sending me an email. It is my name, dave@davewakeman.com. You can also visit my website. That's www.davewakeman.com. We're going through a little bit of an update, a upgrade, a reinvention of the website. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on there. So make sure you bookmark it and check back frequently because the blog's getting updated. There's going to be more handouts, more worksheets, all kinds of crazy stuff is going to be going on there. As always, I want to remind you, if you like the podcast, if you find the podcast valuable, I would be grateful if you would share one episode with a colleague, a friend, someone you think would find this valuable. If you already have done that, or if you do it and you want to do some more, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. We're on almost all of the major platforms, if not all of the major platforms now. And if you've gone that far, I'd love it if you'd leave a review. It helps me understand what's working, what's not. It helps people discover the podcast, and it helps make sure that I'm continuing to give you the kind of content and conversations that are beneficial to you. I want to remind you to come see me in Sydney, Australia at the Ticketing Professionals Conference on the 14th and 15th of November. You can get your tickets by visiting their website at www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to be giving the opening keynote address on change and innovation. It's going to be really like a shot of adrenaline, I think. I think that we're going to have a great time together, so I hope to see you there. So get your tickets at www.ticketingprofessionals.com.au. I also want to remind you about my new newsletter, once a week on Fridays, called Talking Tickets. 5 bullet points, 5 stories you should have maybe been paying attention to, or maybe you did, with a little bit of paragraph or less, probably a couple sentences of insight about what you should be paying attention to, or why the story is important, or maybe something you missed about the story. You can get that Talking Tickets email by sending me an email at my name, dave@davewakeman.com, and put the subject line Talking Tickets in the subject line until I get the landing page set up so I can point you right to it. But there will also be a link to the landing page in the show notes. Also, one more thing. Come see me in Melbourne, Australia on the Monday, the 18th of November, where I'm going to be delivering a full day workshop called Fans for Life, Creating and Keeping the Modern Fan. It's going to help people in theaters and sports and entertainment answer the question that is on everyone's minds this year and the past few years, which is how can we grow our fan base and how can we get people to get off their couches, off their chairs, off their phones, and come to our events. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including lifetime fan value, the fan marketing funnel, understanding fan life cycles, customization of the purchaser's path, rethinking revenue, using the first purchase as a jumping off point for a relationship, adding value, a fan bill of rights, a fan first commitment, innovation, and a whole lot more. So you can get those tickets on Eventbrite by going there, searching for Fans for Life, and creating and keeping the modern fan, or by typing in my name, Dave Wakeman, and it'll take you right there to the landing page for the event, which I will also link to in the show notes. Finally, I want to thank my friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection, for being my partner in the podcast and working with me on so many other great projects. To find out how you and your organization can partner with Booking Protect to deliver a world-class customer service experience to your guests, how you can give the guests more peace of mind as the purchasing time pushes further and further out, and maybe most importantly to you who's listening, can create a brand new stream of revenue for your organization, visit them at www.bookingprotect.com and tell them I sent you. As always, I want to thank you for being here and thank you for listening. Until next time, take it easy, and I will see you soon.